Hello guys, I hope you all are doing good. In between all the controversy happening in India and Maldives, there are some people who say that Maldives will submerge underwater in few years. Let's see if there is any sense in it. There are almost 1,200 islands in Maldives. Let me remind you that these islands are coral islands and this is why they are very vulnerable. As a group of low-lying islands and atolls, many parts of Maldives are threatened by sea level rise. Some predictions suggest most of the nation will become uninhabitable during the 21st century. The country have a challenge to adapt to climate change, and Maldivian authorities have been prominent in international political advocacy to implement climate change mitigation. According to the World Bank, with future sea level projected to increase in the range of 10 to 100 centimeters by year 2100, that is the end of this century, the entire island could be submerged by year 2050. 80% of the country could become uninhabitable due to global warming. In 1988, Maldivian authorities believed that rising seas could already entirely cover the nation within next 30 years. Stating that an estimated rise of 20 to 30 centimeters in the next 20 to 40 years, and that would be seriously catastrophic. By year 2021, 90% of the islands in the Maldives experience severe erosion. 97% of the country no longer had a fresh groundwater. In fact, it is seen that they survive on desalination projects. Desalination projects are which follows the process to convert salt water into water we can regularly use. They use this water which comes from these projects for daily and commercial use. Interestingly, 50% of the national budget is spent on efforts to adapt to effect of climate change. They have faced one natural calamity in the year 2016, which is known as bleaching event. You can see what has happened here to these beautiful corals. They have lost their original color and have started fading out. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's 2007 report predicted that the upper limit of the sea level rise will be 59 centimeters by year 2100, which means that most of the Maldive Republic's 200 inhabited islands may need to be abandoned. According to the researchers from the University of Southampton, the Maldives are the third most endangered nation due to flooding from climate change as a percentage of population. Climate change affects the economy's primary, secondary and tertiary sectors, leading to socio-economic and cultural impacts. Tourism and fisheries together contribute 40% of Maldives' GDP and employs about 70% of Maldivian population. These sectors are vulnerable to climate events as 70% to 90% of tourism and fisheries infrastructure is within 100 meters from the coast due to their proximity to the coast. Trade and transportation infrastructure are vulnerable to sea level rise. Cyclones and floodings are happening there in regular intervals. Damage to these infrastructure results in loss of GDP and jobs and high reconstruction cost. Threats of flooding, saltwater intrusion and unpredictable rainfall and loss of transportation and communication routes affects food security. Furthermore, domestic cultivation of only a few subsistence crops explains Maldives' heavy dependence on food imports. Crop losses will impact women's livelihood and marginalize them further. Similarly, tuna fish, which is a crucial foreign exchange earner for Maldives, accounting for about 90% of total fish exports, is sensitive to temperature fluctuations. The government will face a loss of tax revenues and loss of treasury due to demand for aid or subsidies, impeding the creation of domestic jobs. Subsequently, potential loss of employment will put additional pressure on the state's resources. Additionally, the low level of higher secondary education will accentuate multi-dimensional poverty and pressure on limited resources. We can see Maldivian population is not high educated to get job abroad, so they have to depend on the resources which their country have to live, and their country is mostly dependent on tourism only. Even the water there is salt water mostly, and agriculture is also not very developed part of that country. The climate change has threatened the projected revenue income from the major foreign funded infrastructure projects such as Greater Malay Connectivity Project. This Greater Malay Connectivity Project is initiated by our Indian government only. The potential loss to these projects imperils the country's ability to repay its debt and affects future investments. As a precautionary measure, they have made a seawall around their capital Malé. You can see it here, how they have built this seawall. The capital Malé, where 380,000 citizens are squeezed into a tiny island, is one of the most densely populated pieces of land in the world, with 65,700 people per square kilometers. A giant seawall already surrounded the city, as we have discussed earlier, but Muizu, who is current president of Maldives, said there is potential expand elsewhere. 80% of the Maldives is less than a meter above from the sea level, so it is very vulnerable to get submerged into water. Maldives government is doing reclamation projects, which has increased the country's landmass about 10%. But environmental and rights group warn that while reclamation is needed in the Maldives just because of the threat of getting drowned, it must be done with care. So you guys must be thinking they can relocate to any other country. They have earned enough amount of, they might have earned enough amount of money, so they can relocate to any country. This same thought their former president Mr. Mohammad Nasheed had this same thought when he was in rule 15 years back. He even warned their citizens, as they might become the world's first country to be called as environmental refugees. He wanted Maldivian people to start saving money to buy land in neighboring countries like India, Sri Lanka, or even far away in the country like Australia. But their current president, Mr. Muizu, thinks otherwise. He is saying their citizens will not be leaving their homelands. So there is one such case. There is an island nearby Australia whose name is Tulavu. You can see Tulavu Island here in this picture. The Tuluvian citizens inked a deal to give us citizens right to live in Australia when their Pacific homeland is lost beneath the sea. But Muizu said the Maldives will not follow that route. I hope you like whatever I have covered in this video, and if you like it or if you find it informative, please subscribe my channel. Thank you.